Hi y'all, it's Charlene from the Crafty Art Shack, and we're back here today with another challenge video. I'll tell you more about that in a little bit, so let's get on with the crafts. Let's go! Right, here we go with DIY number 1. Okay, for this first DIY, I got out this rolling pin because I have a lot of rolling pins I need to get done and in my booth. So, and Beth's working on some too. So I took some of this navy blue burlap, and I got that from a garage sale for $1 a roll. That was a great deal because it's good burlap. So anyway, I'm going to cut it out enough to fit around my rolling pin. Now, oh, you see me making that fold there? Now, if you make that fold just like I'm showing you here, and then you take and get your pins out, you're going to pin this down. Now you see I've been working on other videos because my hands got paint on them, and normally I don't have paint on my hands when I'm working because I don't like to get my hands into stuff, but I am pressed for time, so I didn't have time to wash my hands off for this one. So anyway, let's get back to the video. So if you take and pin this, we can make this rolling pin so we can decorate it. I have rolling pins that are just for decorations. Now I want to make one that somebody can slide this off and still use the rolling pin. So what I'm going to do, once I get the rolling pin out of there, I'm going to go in and put my pins in all the way. Then I'm going to get me out some black thread. Now I only usually work with 2 color threads because thread is very expensive, in my opinion, and the 2 colors that I use the most are black and white. If you have those in your arsenal, you can do just about any project with them. Now, if I'm doing a specialty project, I will go and get the exact color that I need, but only if I need it. So if you're not a person that sews all the time, just make sure you have black and white thread in your sewing stuff. Now, I've been sewing since I was 5 years old. I do know how to use a sewing machine, but all my projects today are going to be done by hand because I wanted to show my daughters how to mend something, because my daughters are actually the reason why I started these videos back a year ago. I would say it's been about a year or so ago. And the reason why I started doing it is because there's 5 of them, there's 1 of me, and there's not enough to go around. And they all want me to show them something. And so I figured the best way to do it is do it in videos and put it online, and then I could share it with them and everybody else too. So I'm just going to make a knot in my thread, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the end, and you want to just take and go and loop around into, now I made a knot in the end of my thread, and I'm going to loop it around and then pull it tight. Then I'm going to take my pin out that's down that end because I don't need it anymore. And I am just going to do what I call it a whip stitch. I'm not sure. There may be some other fancy names for it, but that's what I always learned that it was. And I'm going to go all the way down that edge. And now the next thing I'm doing is I'm going to take this piece of jute rope, and I made a knot, and now I'm going to add some glue to it because I don't want it to come apart. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get me out some white thread because we are going to take and make a little rosette. Now, you'll see these rosettes in another project that I did in this video. They're made exactly the same way. You just you can actually glue these if you're not a person that sews, but this is a sewing video, so I'm sewing these. And I'm just going to go all the way around the piece as I start wrapping it around, and you see I'm kind of turning it, wrapping it, stitching it. I'm just running a stitch through there, and this is basically what a whip stitch kind of looks like. And I'm just going around grabbing the 2 edges and pulling it together. Now, if your thread knots up on you, just take and go back and slowly, carefully undo it and get started again. And I'm going to go all the way around this till I feel like I have enough for this little rose that I'm making. And this turns out really, really cute, you guys. And that's basically what I'm doing. So hold on. And you guys, if you hear the lawnmower outside, they're mowing the grass, and I apologize for that. So when I get to the end, I like to stick my needle in my project and whip that string around a couple of times and then pull it tight, and that makes a knot. So now I'm going to get out some of these little beads. I've got some round ones, and I've got some that look like long little ovals. And we are going to take and add a little bead, round bead, to the center of this. And you got to find a bead. And yeah, I always chase these beads around on my desk all the time. So I'm going to go in the bead and back down through my project. And then I'm going to go and grab me one of those little oblong beads, because these, we're going to make a little petal flower on the top of this little rosette. So I'm going to go back up through the bottom of my project, add the little bead, and then go back down into the project. And then I'm going to kind of straighten it out, and then I'm going to go back in where I want my next petal to be, and I'm going to grab me another one of those little oval beads, stick it on there, and pull it through. And yeah, here comes the lawnmower. It's getting close to the house again. And then I'm going to go back down through my project. Sorry about that, you guys. And there goes the alarm because they see them out there working. Sorry. Anyway, they'll be gone in just a minute. I apologize for that. And then I'm just going to do this until I have 4 or 5 little petals on here added to this. And this turns out really, really cute. Okay, so once we get that last little petal on there, then I'm going to go to the back of my project. I'm going to run my piece through there. Now watch me. I'm going to go 1, 2, around, and pull my needle, and that makes my knot on the back. And then I run the extra thread through, and then I clip that off. And that way it doesn't give it the opportunity to ravel out by doing that. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a short piece of muslin or cotton or whatever you want to call it, and we're going to take and just do a running stitch. Now this is what you would call a running stitch or a basting stitch, and yes, think yourself like I did, and that hurts. I'm just going to run it all the way through there. I was making sure I wasn't bleeding because then it'll get on my project. So I'm going to run it all the way through there, loop it back through, and pull it tight, and that is going to make my little piece that goes under my rosette to give it like a contrasting color against that navy. Now you don't have to do this piece, but I chose to do it. So I am just making my little knot in the end, and yep, pulling it tight. And then you're going to take and spread out your little pieces on the back side, and I am going to take and run a little stitch through that. You notice I folded it a couple of times so I didn't have any raw edges, and I'm going to just run another running stitch. This is what I call a running stitch. If it's called something else, call it whatever you want to call it, but that's what I call it. That's what I've called it for years. And I told y'all that I used to sew since I was 5 years old. My mom had a sewing machine, and she gave me a little Singer sewing machine, and all she would ever give me was a piece of notebook paper to sew straight lines on, and she told me once I learned how to sew straight lines, then I could have the some thread. So I never got to use the thread, but guess what I did? I did something. I'll tell you about it when we get to the next project, because we're going to run out of time here. Yep. So I'm going to take and run this up through the center of this, and then I'm going to take, and I'm just making sure everything's straight like I want it to, and I'm going to add my little rosette to the top of it, and I'm just going to go through the back side of it, pull it tight, and run it back down through there. And then I'm going to attach it to my rolling pin. Now, today's video is That's So Amazing Sewing Collaboration, and it is hosted by Nancy's Little Treasures and Crafting with Indy Annie Jones. go check out these ladies' channels because they're doing some awesome crafts and you don't want to miss it. There's also a playlist in the description box below. Go check that out because there's other crafters like me that are participating in this challenge and you don't want to miss it because these ladies are doing some awesome crafts. So let's get back to the video. Now here we go with DIY number 2. Okay, for this next one, I have these doilies that I purchased at a garage sale, and they were in perfect shape, but when I washed them and I got ready to iron them and starch them, this was that I found out that they frayed. So I'm going to do what they call a run and stitch through here, and I am going to mend these. This is how you can mend several different things, like if you had a hole in a sock or something like that. And then once I do that run and stitch, I'm going to come back through and do another little whip stitch on top of that. Now, why did I do the run and stitch first? I did the running stitch to put a line in there to give it something to hold on to when I do this what I call a whip stitch. And then once I get to the end, I'll tie it off. And this one had 2 little places in it that needed to be fixed. So I'm going to let you watch this. And there I go around my pin or my needle, and then I pull it straight. And look at there. We have our doily fixed. Now I will press and iron this again before I put it in my booth, but this is how you can mend something very simply. You just take and make sure your thread has knots in it and start all over again in the next section that needs to be mended. Let me tell you the rest of the story while you watch this. And I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing here. So anyway, let me tell you the story. Oh, I have another one that needs to be mended. So anyway, my mom would go get on the telephone. And she had a sewing machine already set up on the table where she sewed. And I would go and I went and took one of her patterns that was for me. And I would go in my bedroom and I cut up my bed sheets. And then I turned around and every time she'd get on the phone, I'd go sew on her sewing machine because I watched her sew. And now, you guys, I was only 5 years old. And I laid those bed sheets out on my floor because I watched her make stuff all the time. And I was like, I'm going to make me something because I'm tired of sewing notebook paper. And I didn't even have thread to sew it. So I went and made it. And then when I got done with it, I went and showed it to her. And she was so amazed. Well, when I was 8 years old, I got my first Singer sewing machine. And they sent me to a class to learn how to sew. When I got there to the class, they wanted me to make some stupid stuffed animal, but I didn't want to make a stuffed animal. I wanted to make clothes. And so they told the lady told them what I wanted to do, and they said, that's fine, let her do it. She'll be able to do it. And so they made me learn how to do all that tracing stuff and everything else, but that's not how I learned from watching my mom when she sewed. And anyway, yes, I did get in trouble for the bed sheets, and oh Lordy, was I in trouble. But they were so amazed that I learned how to sew. They finally, by the time I was 8 years old, now that's when I was 5, when I was 8, they gave me my first sewing machine, and it was the sewing machine that I actually sewed those clothes on. I had that sewing machine for years, and my girls used it and burnt the motor up in it. Now here we go with DIY number 3. All right, here's our third sewing project that we did, and I lost the footage for it. Now, the part that I actually sewed on this was somebody's bed sheets. Speaking of bed sheets, this was actually a bed skirt, and I took that. It had all this beautiful crocheting pieces on here, and I decided to make valances for our booth at our antique mall that Beth and I have a booth in now. And I made those little rosettes just like I showed you in that project with the rolling pin, and I put all these pieces together, and then I used a piece of mini blinds to attach it to so that I could put it up in the booth. And you guys, I'm sorry I lost the footage on this, but these turn out super awesome. You're going to see pictures of them in the booth here in just a minute. So let's get on with the rest of the video. Now, as most of you know, we opened up a booth this weekend. Here is a ton of thrift flips we did. We found these table legs, and if you find a table on the side of the road or multiple tables and it has a broken leg, pick up the legs because they make excellent items to redo and flip. Now, I found a bunch of bed skirts, and I made these valances, and here is the post up there that you see is what we hung our lights from at the top of our shelves, and you also see those valances back there in the back, and here's another one of those posts. There is tons of things that you can do with nothing to make it into something. So if you're ever driving down the road and you see those table legs, pick them up because they make excellent things. So here, this hutch, Beth's daughter went in there and helped us flip this, and I added the handles. Beth helped with it, and we got it all put together and put in the booth. I think it turned out absolutely gorgeous. That little doggy bed down at the bottom, we did that as well. There is so many things that we thrift flipped this week in really quick for our booth to be able to set it up. And I'm going to show you more pictures of the booth in just a minute, and I just wanted to share these flips with you. Right at this time, we'd like to thank our subscribers. We love you bunches. We really appreciate everything from the bottom of our heart that you do for our channel. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Words aren't enough to thank you for what you've done for us in this channel. And here we go with the final reveal. Alright, y'all, we're back from the craft desk, and didn't these just turn out awesome? Well, if you like this content, subscribe, like, and share because it really helps our video out. And for all our subscribers, thank you so much for everything you do for us by subscribing to the channel. And we'll see you in the next episode of the Crafty Art Shack. We'll see you later. Bye. Now, here is Beth and I when we were standing in front of the Avalon Mall, and we announced that we were getting a booth. Now, here is what the booth looked like before, and I'm going to just let this play out. Look at this. This is when the previous owner was there, and this is what he had in his booth. He had a lot of interesting things in there, but we will show you the pictures of what it looks like after we came in. And here it is after a paint job, some new shelves, and all of the different little things that you can add in to make it look very beautiful. And we've still got some work to do. If you notice, the lights aren't up there yet, but look at that sign Beth made for the kids corner, and look at all the stuff. There is tons of thrift flips that we did this week, and you could just imagine. And there's tons of stuff that we've made in our videos here. If you see something in there that, if you watch our videos, you can see some of the things that we made and put in there. And then there's a ton of thrift flips that we put in there, and I call them thrift flips. They may have come from somewhere else. Now, in addition to opening our booth, we finally hit our goal of 1,000 followers. Thank you guys so much. And 4,000 watch hours. We really appreciate everyone who made this happen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, y'all, if y'all go check out our community tab on our YouTube channel, you will find the channel lineup for the week there on our community tab. So if you ever want to know what's going on with our channel or new things that are happening or anything like that, go check out that community tab. That's where we're posting all of our information that is important for that moment in time. So go check us out.
So you guys, if you like this content, subscribe. Hit that notification bell and give us that big thumbs up because it really helps our channel out. And we'll see you in the next episode of the Crafty Art Shack.